Okay, so in this video, we are going to talk about something called Flow. Flow is another automation tool that is available inside Salesforce. So far, we have talked about workflow. You know what is workflow? Workflow is again the first automation tool that we have discussed, through which we can do only few things like creating a task. What else? Sending an email, sending an outbound messages, and field update. That's right. Now, the extension of workflow is what? Process builder. Process builder is the extension of workflow, which means things that cannot be done through workflow, we as an admin can use process builder to do it. For an example, let's say workflow cannot create any other records apart from task, right? So we have leveraged how process builder can help you to create any records, and will help you to update a record, send a custom notification, all these things, right? So process builder is the second automation tool. Then we have leveraged something called approval process. Approval process is also one of the automation tool, which will help the business to process the approvals, and at the same time, in every single steps of the approval, you can perform some automations, like when the approval is submitted, you can perform some email notification, or is the same workflow actions, by the way, correct? And if the approval is approved, you want to perform something, can be done. If the approval is rejected, if you want to do something, what do you mean by something? The same workflow actions, by the way, right? That can be done. So workflow, process builder, approval process, these three are the part of automations. Now we're going to talk about today something called Flow. Flow is the fourth automation tool which is available inside Salesforce, and believe me, we actually can do a lot of things through flows. All right, it's a bit tough, it's a bit complex to understand. I find many people, many developers, they prefer to write code instead of flow because it's a bit complex. But the moment you understand the flow, you understand how to implement it, life will be peaceful, because a lot of things can be automated with flow. And guess what? Flow has a little extra advantage than process builder. Definitely process builder can also do most of the automations, right? But flow has one extra thing that process builder also cannot help you with. All right, so let's talk about flow today. Flow can definitely do all the backend automations that workflow can do, process builder can do, approval process can do. All right, then you'll ask me, like, what is the reason why we are still learning flow, right? And we can definitely do things with process builder. What is the point of learning again one more tool? With the help of flow, one extra thing that we can do is we can ask the end user to give some input in the screen, and based on the input that has been given by the end user in the screen, we can use those values and we can do the automations. Let me talk about this with an example. Okay, I will go to Salesforce here, and I will go to setup. Setup is already open here. Let me just go to setup and search flow. Okay, we got the flow here. Flow will come in the process automations. Okay, and if you go to flow, right, I think these are the flows created by Salesforce. All these are like standard flows and all. Let us go ahead and create a new flow, and let me explain this page. Okay, so when you create a flow, right, you will first see the screen. Okay, understand the screen first. Let's talk about this record triggered flow. This is basically like a process builder. Whatever you can do in process builder is the same thing that we can do here. Flow is actually been used to do a lot of backend automation. And if you want to perform the backend automation whenever a record gets changed, like edit, delete, right? This is when you have to use the record triggered flow. For an example, let's say whenever an opportunity is greater than 100 is been created or edited or deleted, you want to perform some automation, right? This is where you can write this record triggered flow. So this flow will be invoked whenever a record, maybe opportunity, is created, updated, or deleted. Cool. Then it comes schedule triggered flow. One more example. Suppose every Saturday evening or every Friday night, you have an object called transition, and you have to do some automation in that transition object every Friday end of the day. So for that, you can write that automation in that flow, and that flow can be invoked on a certain time. That time you can decide, like every day, every 15 minutes, every 10 minutes, or maybe once in a week, whatever it is. That's called schedule triggered flow. So the flow will be automatically launched and been executed from the back end whenever the time comes, whenever you have scheduled it for. That's called schedule triggered flow. So it will wait for the certain time, and then it will invoke the flow. I think if you remember, we have done the similar kind of thing in the time dependent workflow. Then it comes auto launched flow. See, auto launched flow is a kind of a flow where you as an admin can write whatever automation that you want to create, and that flow will not be invoked whenever record gets created, updated, deleted. Neither the flow will be invoked after a certain time that you have scheduled. That flow will be invoked by maybe an Apex code, maybe a process builder can invoke it, or maybe you have written a REST API, right? We'll be talking about this Apex, REST API, everything in the development sessions. But let's say you have a process builder, okay, and the process builder will actually invoke your flow. When exactly the process builder will invoke the flow, that's something you have defined in the process builder level. So let's say you're checking the process builder. If the opportunity amount is greater than 100, then call this particular flow. So that kind of flow you can actually create here in this category, and you can invoke that flow from the process builder or Apex code, or maybe from a REST API. Got it? That's called auto launched flow, where you define the business logic in the flow and you invoke that flow, or you call the flow from another process, maybe a process builder or Apex. That's called auto launch flow. Platform event, we haven't learned yet what is platform event. So this particular flow, if you create with a type called platform event triggered flow, then this flow will be invoked whenever a platform event launched. Okay, that's something we can discuss once we learn what is basically platform event later, right? But the most important part why as an admin we prefer to use flow is because of this screen flow. You know what is a screen flow? For an example, right? Actually, we are going to implement one nice example, and I'm going to show you how can we use the screen flow, right? So screen flow is basically, see, workflow, process builder, approval process, all these are backend automations. Flow is also an backend automation, definitely, but can you take some input from the customer and behave based on that, right? So let's say customer has to enter, not the customer, the business user, whoever is using the application, right, has to enter the pin code, and there are certain pin codes that is been deactivated, like there's no service, the customer don't provide any service. So what if that pin code you have to deactivate? I mean, whenever the end user enter that particular set of pin codes, you have to show an error message saying, hey, this pin code, there's no service available. Correct? So you are actually allowing the end user to enter some data, and based on the data that has been entered by the end user, you are performing some business logic, right? So if this is the case, then you have to go ahead with this screen flow. Screen flow will allow the end user to enter some data in the UI, in the user interface, and then based on that you can write some backend automation. All right, so that's all about the different templates that we have for flow. We will go and create a screen flow. Okay, I'm just going to go and explain this next two screen, and after that we'll implement a business example with flow. So first thing is, whenever you create a flow, it actually gives you two options. One is free form, one is auto layout. Free form is basically, flow is a kind of a drag and drop tool, okay, where we as an admin can drag and drop any element in this screen, right? And the element, if you select free form, you can drag and drop any element anywhere in the screen. But if you select auto layout, then this has been structured by Salesforce. This looks like a tree structure. So we will just go ahead with the free form, and later on I'll show you how this auto layout, this is basically a beta version, maybe Salesforce is still working on it, how this auto layout works. Let's now understand this particular page. This page is called Flow Builder. Okay, and basically this page has a start button, right? This is not a button, this is where the flow gets started. And the flow builder has basically two things. One is element, one is manager. Okay, let's understand what is element and what is manager. Manager is basically when we write flow as an admin, when it comes to a complex flow, right? Because this is a backend automation, you need to create many variables. You as an admin need to create many variables which will hold the data. So we as an admin can go to the manager and create any kind of variables we want. Right? If you want to write a formula kind of a variable, you can write. So any kind of variable, we want to create, we can go ahead in the new resource and create. And once the variable is created, right, you can actually search that variable over here. Okay, don't worry, we're going to use all these things in our implementation. I'm just going to give you a theoretical overview first, right, as per the template. And after that we'll go and implement it, right? That's all manager. Manager is where you as an admin create multiple variables, right, which would be used in your flow. If I go back to the elements, check this out. Elements has basically three things: interaction, logic, and data. What is this interaction? Interactions is basically where you interact with the backend or with the end user. So we have, first thing, we have a screen. The screen you will be dragging and dropping in the layout in the flow builder. When you find that you need to show a screen to the end user, like I said, let's say the end user has to put a pin code, right? And you have to showcase a UI for the pin code, right? So you will be dragging and dropping this new screen, and pin code should be, I think, number. So select number and drag and drop. Simple. Just give a name like pin code, right? And then give a label, right? So enter the pin code data, whatever it is. So this is called screen. Screen you'll be using to definitely create a screen for the end user. We use this action when you have to perform few actions in the backend, right? There are multiple actions available, right? It could be a quick actions or any other action like submit for approval, whatever it is, right? If you have any actions created and you want to perform that actions, you have to drag and drop this action thing. Then we have something called sub flow. What we do, right? We have seen this in the process builder also, right? There's something called invocable process builder, correct? We create the invocable process builder to make sure that we can invoke that process builder from another process builder. Same thing here. Sub flow means you might create a flow and you can call the already created flow from this parent flow. That's called sub flow. If you want to execute or call any other flow from this flow, you have to go ahead and use the sub flow. All right, that's called interaction. Let's talk about logic. See, you have to understand here, this is a bit technical things, right? Logic. Flow. What is flow? Flow is an automation tool. We can do a lot of automation with flow. Remember, if you know flow well, there's a very less chances that you will be getting where you have to write code. Everything that we can do through code, right? Apex code, we can do it through flow. This flow was actually not there in the picture, few releases back, right? A couple of years back. We had only workflow. Then, Salesforce come up with process builder, then this flow. So things cannot be done through process builder. we used to write Apex code. Apex code can do anything, okay? But if you know this logic thing and all the data part of Flow, then most of the coding part that you can do right now, you can write code and do things, you can actually do this through Flow, right? So logic is this, okay? First thing is assignment. What is assignment? Again, another example. Suppose you have few opportunities, okay? Or you have one opportunity. Suppose you want to fetch the opportunity from the Salesforce opportunity object. Maybe the opportunity name is XYZ. So we have something called get records. We use this get records a lot, okay? I'm gonna demonstrate to you all this get record, create record. So let's say with the help of get records, you are fetching one opportunity. That opportunity has amount could be 1 to 100, whatever, and you have created one variable in the manager called opportunity amount, okay? After that, whatever amount that the opportunity has, which opportunity? The opportunity that has been fetched by this get record thing, that opportunity, whatever amount that it holds, you want to assign that amount, that number, into that variable that you have already created. You get it, right? So we use this assignment a lot in the Flow, where you have to assign something. You have a variable called OPP amount, and you want to fetch the actual opportunity amount where name is equal to XYZ, and you want to hold it. You want to assign that number into that variable that you have created. If that is the case, we would be using assignment. Assignment is just to assign something inside something, right? Most of it we use it for assigning some value in the variables, right? Decisions, I mean, without this, a flow is incomplete, right? So decision is this, right? Let's say you are, one example, right? You are fetching all the opportunities, okay? And we have, suppose, 5,000 opportunities. You have how many? 5,000 opportunities, okay? Out of 5,000 opportunities, you have to go and check which opportunity has amount greater than 100. Have you got what I'm saying? You first have fetched all the 5,000 opportunities with this get record. You have hold that 5,000 opportunity data in a variable that we have created, and then you have to go into each and every opportunity one by one and have to find out if the opportunity amount has greater than 100. How do you go? How you can make the system go to each and every opportunity and check what is the amount? This is where this loop comes in the picture. Loop will be helping you to looping around this variable which hold all these 5,000 records. Loop is just like for loop. If you know coding, if you know any kind of languages, right? We use something called for loop, which we would be using a lot in the Apex code. So loop is something which will help you to loop inside a variable, and variable can have like 5,000 data, and inside the 5,000, I mean, out of this 5,000 record, maybe one record or a couple of record has amount greater than 100. So that's something you can check it through loop. Okay, now let's say you have got few opportunities where amount is greater than 100. If the amount is greater than 100, suppose you want to do something, how do you do it? You have to use this decision. Decision is something which will help you to do this if and else thing. If amount is greater than this, do this, else do something else, right? That's something you have to do it through this decision, right? Collection sort is something, again, same example. You have 5,000 opportunity, and opportunity has amount, and you have hold that amount in a variable, and that variable, which is nothing but a collection, you want to sort it. You want to suppose get the highest amount, right? So you have to sort with maybe descending or ascending order. This is where you have to use the collection sort. Then after this logic part, it comes the data. See, what do you mean by automation? It's all about, Salesforce is a database, correct? Salesforce is a database, and all you'll be doing as an admin is insert, update, and delete. That's it, right? So create record, update record, delete record is something it would be helpful for you to when you want to do the data operation. Okay, and get record is right, we have to fetch the data, right? So that's all about theoretically what flow is, okay, next video I'm gonna talk about a real example. I actually have created one object for you offline, so I'm gonna talk about a real example, and we will implement that thing with flow. All right, so see you in the next video.